Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We still have some people logging on, but we're going to go ahead and get started now since it's 11:30. My name is Jennifer. I'm with your DSCC-MWR, and I'm excited to bring you an information session today from the Gordon Group with Keller Williams, Greater Columbus. Your presenters for the next hour are Tim and Tammy Gordon. They've both served in the military and are Central Ohio natives. And they've been married for 31 years and have two grown sons who also served in the military. And they have two new granddaughters. Tammy holds certifications as a negotiation expert, price strategy advisor, home stager, and a military relocation professional. And Tim is a Lean Sigma 6 black belt. So together, they hold a master's degree in leadership marketing and bachelor's degrees in business, human resources, and education. In 2021, their team sold 127 homes throughout Central Ohio and with $25+ million in sales. They're currently ranked in the top 2% of all Columbus realtors. Before we begin, just a couple of notes. If you have any issues with the Zoom system today, please feel free to mention it in the chat or reach out to me directly. If you're experiencing any issues with the audio on this seminar today, there is an audio call-in option. We have muted everyone's microphone today. However, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box and we'll be monitoring the chat box regularly. And Tammy and Tim will be taking periodic breaks to answer those questions throughout the seminar. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Tim and Tammy.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much. Tim and I are very happy to be here today to share a little bit of our knowledge about the home buying and selling process. Especially excited to be sharing it with some of our fellow military brothers and sisters. We do work a lot with military. It has always been our passion to just continue to be able to give back. We greatly enjoyed serving and we still enjoy the camaraderie of being with our military brothers and sisters. And with that, we do specialize a lot in the VA purchases. We work a lot with vendors that home inspectors that will offer military discounts. And we have some great affiliations with lenders also that do some great products for our military members. So today we're going to cover, Tim's going to cover the process for buyers and what they go through in this challenging market. And then I'm going to go over the seller side. Both are going to offer good information. So if you're on here to get some information regarding the selling process, I still think it's great to listen to what Tim has to offer because you're going to get a feel for the offers that may be coming your way from the buyers. And then on the seller side, if you're a current buyer, but you're thinking about selling, you'll kind of see what you're going to be facing in regards to that. So as Jennifer mentioned, she'll be monitoring the chat for us. Please feel free to post any questions that you have in there. We will be happy to answer them or get back to you if we don't know the immediate answers. And another thing that we did want to offer up, we do have a buyer's resource guide that I would be happy to send to you, as well as a seller's resource guide that you may find to give you a little bit more additional information. So if you'd like to just post that in the chat, if you would like either of those or both of those, just let me know and I'm happy to send those off to you. And if you are a seller and you're just wondering maybe what your home valuation is, we would also be happy to give you a complimentary home valuation. You may very much be surprised at what your current valuation is in this market. Values have went up a lot. So we would be happy to help you with that. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tim, and he is going to walk you through the buyer process.
Super, thank you. And thanks for all of you joining us to talk a little bit about real estate. Finding a house, going out and just the process of looking is exciting. It can be a lot of fun, but it can also have some trials and tribulations and things that you're going to run into. That's why we're here. We're here to help you guys, give you advice, take you down the path of what your options are so that you can decide what kind of house that you want and you can decide what the best offer is for you to put in. Like Tammy said, whether you're a buyer or seller, going through the buyer part is really a good idea. You're going to see what kind of offers are going to come your way and what makes those offers more or less competitive, especially in this marketplace. Going through the buyer section, we're going to talk a little bit about the current market. It has gotten very hot over the last 13, 14 months, but it's been a seller's market for quite a few years now. We're going to talk about your options as far as whether you go new build, whether you go into the existing home market. And as we get into, as we get into the buying process itself, I'll talk some when we go through the offers on how you win, and we'll have it open for questions. If you do have questions at any time, though, please put those in the chat. Jennifer's going to let us know, and Jennifer, break in on me anytime that you want, and we'll try to answer questions as quickly as we can. So the market, the way it stands, people come and ask us, what's the best time to buy a house? And my answer is 2013 was the best time to buy a house. But if you don't have a DeLorean and you can't get back to 2013, here's the market that we're dealing with. This chart really kind of is there to show you what a balanced market would look like versus what we have today as far as the number of homes for sale. In Central Ohio, we need about 15,000 homes on the market active at any given time to balance out the number of buyers versus the number of sellers. As of yesterday, when I looked it up, we have 1,269 homes actively for sale on the market. So we have a very limited supply out there. Things go fast, and it's going for over asking price. So it's going to be tough as a buyer. We're finding people homes all the time, so it's possible to get out there. It's just going to be a different market that you may have had to buy into previously if you've already bought a home. In buying the houses, it's still better to buy than to rent. You're still building equity in the homes that you're going to buy. It's still a good idea, but it is going to be a little different than what you may have been used to. The competition that's out there, one of the ways to avoid it is to go through a new home build versus the existing market. So that's one of your options. The advantages, disadvantages of that. Advantage in a new home build is you're really not in competition with other folks. So you're not out there putting in an offer and there's 5 or 6 or 19 or 20 offers at the same time for one house. You're just dealing with a particular builder. Once you select the lot, you go through, you pick out the house that you like, you pick out the customizations that you may like, and that's yours. So you don't have to go out and bid against other people. There's also some builder lender incentives that they can put in, whether that's they give you a pool of money if you use their lender, that they'll give you a pool of money to do certain upgrades, or they may help you cover some of your closing costs. And covering closing costs, something that's kind of tough to come by when we get into the existing home market at this stage. Another advantage is you may have a better resale. So if you sell in 5, 6, 7 years, you've got a house that's 5, 7 years old. So it's a newer house. It's probably going to have a better resale value than maybe some of the older homes, again, depending on location. Disadvantages in new home builds right now, you're really looking at a floor of $300,000 just for the basic models. That can even be 2 bedrooms if you're looking up on the northwest side of town. That's probably without a basement. It's maybe just a 2-car garage, not the added bonuses, not the added rooms. 300,000 is the floor, and 400,000 you get to really quickly if you're looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with any kind of customization at all. We're also looking somewhere between 9 and 12-month build times. We've all seen the supply chain problems that are going on. That hits the builders in several different areas. We've seen it happen in wood. We've seen it happen in roofing. We've seen it happen in appliances and some of the accoutrements that go in the house. So you are looking, rather than maybe a 3 to 6 month build time, 9 to 12 is really what you're looking at. One of the ways you can make that a little quicker if you are interested in new builds is you can buy what's called an inventory home. These are houses, spec houses that the builder just starts building. They know someone is looking for new homes and they're going to buy it. There's not as much customization there for you, but you can get a brand new house a lot quicker. You still may be able to customize some of the things inside depending on what stage of the building process it's in, but that's another option where you may be able to get into that anywhere 3 months from now up to 6 or 8 months. So it can be a little quicker. The key on new builds to have us involved. We can help you through going through their contract provisions, advise you on what some of the lending opportunities are. They do support the VA loans, and in most cases, I don't think we've run into a builder yet that hasn't. But those are all out there. Tammy and I can help you with it, but we can only help you if you let us call and make that appointment with the builder. If you guys call first, give me your email, give me your name, they're going to lock us out of that process. So if you're interested in new builds, please give us a call. We'll get everything set up for you on your time frame, and we'll be there to help you down the path. If new build's not in your interest and you want to go back into the existing market, we're back here. This is where we're going to compete. We're going to have a lot of buyers in the marketplace that we're competing against. When we go and see houses, you're going to see some of these houses are going to have all kind of people looking around at it. We'll be there with a lot of other people. There's just a lot of interest because when houses come on the market, if it's move-in ready in any way, we're going to have quite a few people looking, and it's going to go very quickly. Most of the move-in ready houses will go on the market. You'll see it pop up in the search emails that we set up on Thursday and Friday. It'll have notes in there. They want all the offers in by Sunday night, and by Monday, typically they're in contract. So things are moving very quickly. For those of you that are more interested in selling, this is a wonderful market for you. Selling is one of the best opportunities right now. It's just buying another home is going to be what the challenge is. As we look at those homes, most of the houses out there at this point, if it's that first weekend and it's a move-in ready house, we're going to have to bid 10 to 20% over the list price to be competitive. And that's not even a win necessarily, but to be in the top 5, top 2, we're going to be 10 or 20% over the asking price. And we're probably going to have some of the other conditions in there, and I'll talk about those as we go through, where we're going to try to be as nice as possible to the seller to get them interested in our offer. Tammy really is our listing expert on the team. And she's listed, what, 3 houses over the last weekend or so. Mm-hmm. And she can give you some of the stats on those houses just to give you an idea of what's out there in the marketplace. Tammy?
Yes, so just to kind of give you a little bit of what he's talking about to bring it into perspective, just this past weekend, I did list 3 homes where we went active. And one of them was listed for $219,000. And we had 97 showings. And this was through a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All 3 of these homes, that was the period where we showed them. The first house, $219,000, 97 showings during that 4-day period, 19 offers, and we ended up going in contract for over $250,000. So listed for $219 and contract for over $250. The second one was a more rural property. It was on 5 acres, but still we listed for $369. We had over 37 showings and 7 offers, and we went in contract for over $400. The third one was listed for $474,000. We had 34 showings again during that 4-day period, 5 very strong offers, and the sellers accepted one and went in contract for over $530,000. So that's kind of what you're looking at when Tim says that. It's almost like the listing price is the starting bid.
And sadly, that's true. I love to negotiate, and this just is not a market where we can do a lot of heavy negotiating. Now, on a distressed home or on a home that falls out of contract and they have some other problems with it, we might have some opportunities there. So the longer it's on the market, the more chance we have. And for you sellers that are out there, that's one of the reasons why we try to get you to make sure that we're ready when we go showing, because you want to get in contract that first weekend. Anything stays on the market longer, you're going to start getting some negotiating pressure from folks. Our job is to help you in that first weekend, identify ways that you can win that. We have been very successful. We had a lot of home sales last year, and it was the same basic market. But it is going to be a little tougher, and we are going to be bidding over. So it's an interesting market. It's something we really haven't seen before in our lifetimes. What I'll go through next is really the buying process. And once we start, you're interested, you want to start looking at a house, this is pretty much what we're going to have to go through. These 7 stages are common to each sale. And we'll go through each one of these and talk about what you're going to do in each one of these sections and why it's important to us. Pre-approval, talking to a lender, mortgage brokers and banks and types of loans. So you have various options here. We have both mortgage brokers and banks that we can refer you guys to, people we've worked with in the past that have done a good job. Mortgage brokers tend to have more options. They have programs that they work through different underwriters on, so they're a little bit more flexible, even VA. Banks tend to be a little bit more rigid in their rule set. They don't have as many options because they just don't have as many pools of money that they can lend out. But certain banks do local lending where they have their own pool of money, and that can actually be a lot more flexible. So depending on what kind of property you're looking at, what kind of things that you want to do, mortgage brokers and banks offer different advantages and disadvantages depending on what your situation is. Most of us are going to be looking at VA loans, and that's one of the best benefits that we get for being prior military. There's things that you can do when you get your COE, certificate of eligibility. It's going to say in there whether you've got a VA disability rating. With that, you can skip the funding fee. Funding fees are usually rolled into the loan. It makes your loan a little higher, but you don't have it out of pocket. Still a great option. But if you do have a VA rating, then we can get that wiped out, or you will have that wiped out. If you're in the process of doing so, we've even had people that come back to us saying you can get that reimbursed later. So if you're in the process of working with the VA to get a particular disability rating, hasn't done it yet, you go through the process of getting the VA loan, and once you get the rating, there is a process where you can come back and get that funding fee refunded to you. What we're really looking for when we first go to the lenders this stage is to get your pre-approval. We need to know what it is that you can afford first. And then once you see that, we want to know what it is that you want to afford. Just because somebody says that you can't afford a $600,000 loan, you may not want a $300,000 or $3,500 or $3,500 mortgage payment every month. So we try to determine what's your comfort zone, where you're going to fit, and then we can go in and we can start setting up effective searches to show you the kinds of homes that you want to take a look at. That pre-approval is extremely important. Just about every offer that we turn in at this point needs to have pre-approval with it. There's a very limited time of getting these done. There's not a lot of counter offers going on, so there's not a lot of discussion time. You put in your best offer and then they select from it. And that's pretty much how the sale process is going. Lender paperwork, really, whether you're a buyer or seller, Tammy and I want to make the process as smooth and as easy on you as possible, take out a lot of those rough edges. And the lender process is one of the areas we just can't do a lot with. Lenders are a lot like being in the military. There's a right way, there's a wrong way, and there's the lender's way. So you're going to just feed them paper, close your mind off to the fact that you've probably already submitted this 3 times. Just keep pushing paper at them until they stop. They will get through it. You will get through your pre-approval and your loan application process as you go. Just be prepared for a little frustration when it comes to lenders. Even the good ones, they seem to have cycles that go through. I'm not really sure why. I try not to get too deep into the lender process. That is an area that we can answer questions. We can help you with it. That's going to be between you guys and the lender. Pre-approval is the important bit. Once we know what it is, as far as price, we're going to talk about what you want to have. So we'll look at setting up a search criteria. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what area do you want it to be in? Of course, the price is going to be part of that. And just about everything that we do anymore is set up on an automated basis. So we're going to plug all this stuff in, and you're going to receive automated emails through the multiple listing system that show you every house as soon as it comes on the market. So if we say you're looking for a house for $250,000 or under, with 3 bedrooms or more, 2 baths, one comes on the market within that price range, that's immediately going to shoot an email to you, and you can go out and take a look at that and see if it's something you'd be interested in going out and seeing. After we get through the searches, we've gone through some of that, all the paperwork is also done through a system called .loop. So you're going to get an email once we start putting offers together and contract documents. You simply just click on the link. You go down through, you can review it right there on your screen, whether it's your phone or an iPad or your computer. Read through the document. You just click to sign or click to initial. It automatically comes back when you're finished, and then I'm going to send that electronically off to the seller's agent. So it's a much easier process than it used to be. A lot less paperwork just because of the automation that's been put into the system. It's really kind of cool. Once you've gone through and you've seen some of these search emails come back to you and find the kind of houses that you like, all you need to do is send us a text, email, give us a call. Let us know the addresses of the homes that you'd like to see and the dates and times that you're available. We're going to call the agent on the other end. We're going to get showing set up based on your time frame, and we're going to go out and take a look at it. One of the things that people always run into is that pictures you're seeing online are the best possible view, or should be the best possible view of that house. Pictures sell. So we've gotten really good. Tammy pretty much exclusively uses professional photographers. We go in and set up our sellers and set up the listing inside the MLS. But sometimes those pictures can lie. You're going to see the best version of the house. You're not going to see all of the things that are probably wrong with the house or some of the warts if there are any. So you're going to tell very quickly that you walk into a house is like, this is not what I saw online. That's why we want to go and do those showings. Being there to see, hear, and definitely to smell that house is important. Most people, once we get out there and we start looking at houses, most people decide whether they like the house in the first 10 seconds. So when they walk up to the house, when they first walk inside, they're going to decide whether they like the house or not. They may go through the house. They may think it's better than what they thought at first. They may actually talk themselves out of it. But that first 10 seconds is extremely important. So being there, seeing it, feeling it, being able to tell if there's a railroad next door, you're real close to traffic, so you can hear things. That's real important. Smell can tell you lots of things. So it's got a basement, it's got leaks, you're probably going to get a musty smell. And that leads us down a path where we can talk about some of the things that are wrong with the house. As part of at least what I do, and I know Tammy does the same thing, when we're out showing, we're really not trying to sell you a house. If anything, I'm going to point out a lot of the negatives that I see if I see any of that particular house to try to let you know what's going on. I would much rather take you out and show you 50 houses to get you to the right one, the one that you're going to be happy with, than to try to push you into a house that you end up not liking. We want you to be happy when you buy it. We want you to be happy in 5 years. We want you to be happy with your family there. So we want to get you out there. We want to see these things, and we're going to talk you through the process and be your advisor all the way. We've seen a lot of these. Our experience is there at your disposal. That's really what our job is. At some point, we're going to find a house that you like. And often that comes in, you're going to walk in, you and your family's eyes are going to light up. You're going to be like, this is it. This is the one we want. That's when we're going to get serious about putting an offer together. These 8 factors are really the common items that we have to compete on when we put an offer in. The offer is going to be part of a form that comes from the Columbus Board of Realtors. We fill in things, and these are a lot of the fill-in fields that we're going to use, but this is where we have choices. Tammy and I will give you options. We'll tell you what we think we can do, what we think the price is going to be worth using the tools that we have available to us. But it's going to be for you guys to decide what you're comfortable with and what you want to bid on any particular house. So first is price. And the obvious bit there is the higher, the better, as far as the seller is concerned. Since we're in a seller's market and there's so few homes available, most of what we're going to do to win an offer is it's going to be bent towards the seller. We're trying to make it as attractive as possible so that they pick your offer. So price is the first consideration. To win at this stage, if it's not a house that's got some kind of distress situation that you're going to have to do a lot of fix-ups on, if it's move-in ready, we are going to be looking at 10 to 20% over the list price. So just be aware of that and be expecting it. Conditions and contingencies, a lot of this gets into the particular things in this situation, either for that house or with you. So we may have some conditions that we can put on it that say that maybe we want to offer them some money if they'll accept our offer very quickly. That's something we've used in the past to great effect. It's not working right now. Contingencies, you may have a house to sell and you can't buy this house without selling your house first. A home sale contingency makes your offer a little worse in this market. But if you got to sell the house, it's going to be part of that. So we're going to use that section to adapt to whatever your particular situation is. And if we find some ways that we think we can make the offer look a little bit better for the seller, we may have some conditions that we throw in, and we'll talk through some of those options. Closing costs. Above and beyond the down payment that if you use a VA loan, you don't even have. You're also going to have some closing costs that you're going to have to pay at the time that you actually buy the house. When we go to the title company, you do the closing. For most of the houses in our range, you're looking at somewhere between $2,000 and maybe $8,000 for really high-priced homes as closing costs that you're going to have to pay. And that varies based on your taxes, based on the insurance that you get, and based on the price of the house. So be aware that even though the VA is going to make sure you don't have to pay for the down payment, you probably will have some closing costs that you're going to have to pay for. Just make sure that you have that set in mind. In a normal market, the buyers usually ask the seller to help them with some of the closing costs so they have less out of pocket as they're buying the house. And really what you're doing there is trading dollars. So you're saying, here's a price that I'm going to get you. I'd like $2,000 of that money back to help pay for my closing costs. In this market, offers that do that really aren't winning unless, again, you're in distressed property. We've even seen quite a few folks now offering to pay the seller's closing costs, either some or even sometimes all, that's a big offer. But paying for the seller's closing costs. So as a competitive factor, that's one of the ways that we can make the offer look better to the seller. We're throwing money around in a lot of this, but we can actually offer to pay for some of the seller's closing costs. Inspections and remedy requests. We always recommend that you do a home inspection. It gives you a great report card as far as what that home is, what kind of issues are there with the house. These guys spend 4 to 6 hours in the house. They do a great job. That different houses that we've bought in the past, whether it's for rentals or our own, we've always done a home inspection. As part of the home inspection process, you can then ask the seller to fix things. And in a normal market, that's what you would do. You do an inspection, you find some things wrong, you ask the seller to fix them, they either agree to that or not, and you move forward. In this market, that's not what's happening. If you want to do an inspection, which we do advise, you do the inspection. That does give you the opportunity to exit the contract if you find something that looks like it's going to turn that home into a money pit. So you can get out of the contract without any problems. It's written into the agreement. That's one of the exit areas. But we would advise that you do not ask the seller to fix anything. So the request to remedy, we would waive in most cases as a minimum. A lot of winning offers at this point aren't even doing inspections. So while I won't recommend that as a great idea for buying a house, it is a good idea for winning the bid. So it is an option that you guys will have. You can waive inspection and waive the remedy request. That also shortens the time period to get to closing, which can be attractive to a seller as well. If they've already moved out of their house, they want to get out of that house as quickly as possible. Being able to reduce the time it takes us to go from getting in contract to closing of the house is a benefit to the seller. Home warranty is another area. A home warranty is a 1-year policy that's going to cover your basic building systems. So whether that's the heating and air conditioning units, the hot water tank, your appliances, it's a good way so that you don't get any unexpected costs in your first year of having the house, because you're going to have a lot of costs when you move in. Typically, again, normal markets, we would ask the seller to pay for that. We're not doing that. You can pay for it. My advice is, if you want a home warranty, which can be a good idea, especially on the house. If it's a newer house, you don't really need one. If it's an older house, it's probably a good idea. For $600 or $700, you can guarantee that you're not going to have a $2,500, $3,000 bill to replace your furnace. Can be a good idea, but at this stage, I'm advising all of our buyers that they want to pay for that themselves, and they can do that at closing. Appraisal gap. Appraisal gap is a new condition that really is there to make us more competitive in this marketplace. Listing agents do a lot of work to try to find out what the right list price is that can be supported by comparable sales in that neighborhood to support an appraisal. We're out there competing and we're having to bid $10,000 to $20,000 over what that list price is. So there's a chance that the appraisal is going to come in for less than the amount of money that we've offered to purchase the house for. Typically, when that happens, first, your mortgage company is only going to give you the amount of money that the appraisal says it's worth. The seller is expecting you to pay what you offered. So usually we negotiate down to what the appraisal is. In this seller's market, we have people coming in saying they'll cover some or all of that gap between what the appraisal is and what your offer price is. So if you offered a $10,000 appraisal gap and you offered $300 for the house and the appraisal came in at $280, you would have to come to the table with an additional $10,000 on top of your other closing costs to cover the $10,000 appraisal gap that you offered the seller. Seller's happy because they're going to get $290,000 out of it instead of $280 the appraiser said it's worth. you're going to get your house, but you're going to pay a premium for that. We're going to be competing against appraisal gaps that are anywhere from 10 to 15 up to the entire gap that may exist between whatever the appraisal comes in and that purchase price. So we'll talk more at length on that as we get into those situations. Just be aware that that's one of the competitive factors we're going to run into. Possession time. In a lot of cases, when you buy the house the day that you close, you would get possession of the house. Since the sellers have a lot of leverage at this point because of limited supply out of the marketplace, the sellers are asking for a little more possession time to give them time to go through, get cleaned up, get their stuff packed up and get out of the house. We're seeing anywhere from a week, 2 weeks, even up to a month after you close, after it's your house, that the seller stays in that house before they move out. That'll be very dependent on what the seller's doing. They may have already moved out. You can get possession right then, but possession time is something that if it's important to the seller, we can put in the offer and say, hey, we'll give you a month time there, make it more attractive to them, make it more likely they're going to pick your offer. Another way to separate your offer is to put down earnest money or what's called a non-refundable deposit. And we can get into the details of what those differ as, but it's just letting the seller know that you've got some skin in the game and you're putting money up front. You're actually going to close on this house. So it's just another one of the ways that we can make the offer better. So these are the things we'll talk about as we go to putting an offer in. This is where the fun really starts as far as us trying to get the house itself. But each one of those are going to be specific to the house, but they're pretty common in every transaction that we're going to look at. At some point, we're going to put that offer in, and we're going to be the one selected. We're going to win it. And at that point, we go into contract. From the time we go into contract, it's going to take anywhere from 30 to 45 days to get from in contract to closing. And that's going to be dependent on what we do as far as inspections and stuff. And it's also going to be dependent some on the lender and your process of going through the lender's underwriting. First thing that we're going to want you to do is get back with your lender and go through the formal loan application, get them all the paperwork they need to be able to get your loan going. It's to get that first conditional approval. If we're doing an inspection, we're going to immediately get a hold of the inspection companies like Tammy was talking about. We've got inspection vendors who are also prior military, and they're going to give you a nice break up to 25% off of that inspection cost. If we're doing the inspection, that'll be the first 7 to 10 days. If we're not doing an inspection, we're going to move right into appraisal. You're going to order the appraisal, and let me step back a second. Both the inspection and the appraiser are going to be money that's going to come out of your pocket as well as those closing costs. You may be able to delay the payment of those until closing itself, but in a lot of cases, you're going to pay for that up front. Inspections are going to run you $300 to $400. Appraisals right now, I think, are going $525, $600, somewhere in that range. Depending on your lender, they may want you to pay that right then, or they may delay that and let you pay it at closing. But it is going to be some money, extra money out of pocket that you're going to have to deal with on top of that $2,000 to $8,000 in closing costs. You don't want to order the appraisal until you do the inspection, if you are in fact doing an inspection. If you go through the inspection and you find out that this isn't the house for you and you want to exit the contract, you can, but you don't want to have paid up front for that appraisal cost at that stage because there's no reason to do one. So always wait until after the inspection before you do the appraisal. Once you go out, the appraiser is going to go, they're going to look at the property, they're going to come back, they'll do their analysis, and they're going to come up with 3 basic findings. It's either going to be to the value that you offered on the home. A lot of the appraisers are going along with the market and the fact that we're bidding 10 to 20% over, but we're seeing quite a few that also probably aren't going to reach the purchase price. They may come back and say, yes, it's worth what you offered on the house, but there's conditions to that. So maybe there's some peeling paint that needs to be scraped and painted. Maybe there's some other safety kind of issues, railings, that kind of thing, that the seller has to fix for the mortgage company to be able to put the loan on that house. We'll need to get those conditions fixed to be able to close the loan, but you don't have a pricing issue at that stage. It may come in undervalued. If it's a VA loan, they call that tidewater. If it's undervalued, then we'll have to go back and we'll have to talk to the seller as far as what the new price is going to be. If we have that appraisal gap in there, that's when that's going to get triggered, and you may have to bring extra money to the table to cover the gap between the appraisal and whatever your asking price is, up to whatever you offered in appraisal gap. Once we come to an agreement on all those things, or any of those things that we need to on the appraisal, it moves forward, and now you're going to go with your lender into their final underwriting process, provide them with more paperwork, and get to closing. They're going to issue a closing disclosure. You're going to have to sign 3 days before we go to closing, and then they'll issue a clear to close, at which point we can go in. You're going to sign lots of paperwork, and the house is going to be yours. So that's pretty much the entire process. Once you get to closing, that's the end. You get to move in. Tammy and I will always still be here, though, to answer any questions, to help you with anything as you run across stuff as you move in. Paperwork, we're going to be able to provide you 5 to 7 years within an electronic system. And if you've got questions and other things, we're always happy to call, or to be called and talk and try to walk you through what solutions might be. So that's pretty much everything a buyer is going to go through in this market. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to field any at this point, or if you want to give us a call separately, happy to do that as well.
Jennifer, were there any questions that came through on the buyer process while he was explaining that?
Nope, we don't have any questions yet.
Okay, and I know that was a lot of information, and it's definitely not intended to be gloom and doom. I guess the biggest thing that we want to make sure is that buyers are familiar with the process, that they don't go into it blindly. There are a lot of obstacles out there, and that's where we are here to help you through the process. We, like you said at the beginning, we sold a lot of houses last year, so we get this done. We're very determined, and we work really hard for our buyers. So we find ways to make things happen, but we don't want it to be, we don't want you to go in blind. Information is powerful, so we want you to know what are some of the things that you could be facing. Did you have anything else to add to that?
Nope, that was it. That's good.
Okay, all right, very good. So we will move on then to the selling process. So as Tim said, it is absolutely a seller's market. So if you are thinking about selling, there has never been a better time, and indeed, and in our lifetimes at least, that I know of, to do so. But it's just a matter of, you also have a lot of things that you have to work through. It's not an easy process still for sellers, because there is a lot of things that we want to make sure that you're familiar with and ready for. So some of the things that we are going to cover today are just that: deciding when is it the right time to sell. Obviously, as we said, it is an absolute seller market, but that doesn't mean it may not be the right time for you to sell. You want to hire a good listing agent. It's so much more than just putting a sign in the yard. There's a lot that rolls into it. You want to make sure that you have an advocate that's there, that is advising you along the way, to ensure that you do sell your home for as much as you can. It's your biggest asset. Preparing your home for sale, again, will help to walk you through that, because you want to make that first impression your best impression. Effectively pricing and marketing your home. I bolded this because I think this is absolutely the most critical thing to do. And if you accomplish this, then step number 5 will be much more easy, and you will be accepting offers and working through the process very quickly. Again, deciding the right time to sell. There's usually life events that play into this, factoring into this. You may be upsizing. We've seen a lot of people, especially through COVID, where you may be having your parents move in with you. So it's a multi-generational thing that's happened a lot. Or you could be downsizing, just the opposite. You're maybe moving into a condo. Could have had a job transfer where you need to sell immediately, quickly. So we want to make sure that we are clear on what it is you want to accomplish and the timeline of when you want to accomplish that, and also what your budget is to be able to sell. You obviously will be, hopefully, that's our goal, getting a lot of money at the end of the game, but we want to also make sure that we budget accordingly, because you may have to spend some money to get your home ready to sell. And then lastly, is it the right time to sell? Real estate does have a season, and spring is very much a seller season, but you can't always, maybe that's not the time for you to sell. Financially, you may have to sell, at a certain time. And then also emotionally, you need to be ready to sell. You could have lived in the home for many, many years, and we totally understand that, and we will help you walk through that part of it as well. Again, hiring a good agent is critical. This again is your biggest asset. You're about to literally give them the keys to your house and full reign of it. So you want to make sure that it's someone that you trust and are comfortable with. I highly recommend you interview agents, check their credentials and their reviews. You want to make sure that you are getting someone that you are comfortable with and that you trust, because again, this is a process where there will be bumps along the way, and that's just part of the process. And you want someone that will help to save you time and walk you through this. And again, that will just help you. That pricing strategy, again, is an extremely critical element, as well as the listing timeline, the negotiations. It all plays into it a big way. Other things, staging your home. I am a certified stager, and I always say that it's kind of like you want to think of it as what we see in magazines, because that's what buyers are looking at. They're looking online at these homes, and some of them do. They look like they're straight out of a magazine. So that's kind of what we shoot for. And I understand that sometimes that can be stressful, especially if you're still living in the home, you have children. So we try to focus on working with what we can, and pictures are a big part of that. So when we have the photographers come in and we stage the home for the pictures, we get great pictures, we have them out there online, and then that way you can go back to living in your home until we're ready to start the showings. Also, when you list with an agent, we will help to protect you against unqualified buyers, especially right now, price of gas. Agents are not going to be bringing people into your home that are not qualified and just want to look around at houses. We publicize in our listings, and we want to make sure that only pre-approved buyers are showing, are the ones that we're bringing through homes. So again, that's why when Tim mentioned that it's important to get your pre-approval, this is why sellers only want to have pre-approved buyers in their homes. Again, realtors will help you navigate the bumps along the way, and they share the legal risk. So these are just some of the listing agreement, the forms, the purchase contracts. These are some of the legal forms that we will help you to work through on the process. When I meet with my sellers, one of the things that we talk about are what are some of the musts and what are some of the can things that can be done. For example, cosmetic improvements. Sometimes we always say that your biggest bang for your buck are if you make updates to your flooring and your paint. You can possibly get a higher price for that without spending thousands and thousands of dollars, but that may not be in the budget. So that could possibly be a can. Some of the must things you may have to fix because it may cause the loan not to be approved. So for example, if your furnace isn't working, that's going to be a requirement for the loan. So that may be something that is a must that you will have to do. We also want to focus on curb appeal. Again, making that first impression. So whether it be maybe painting the front door, mulching, doing some gardening, those are all things that we want to, again, create that great first impression. Like Tim said, many buyers know within the first 10 seconds they walk into your home if they're going to even consider purchasing it. As far as the staging process, one of the biggest things that you can do is simply declutter the home and depersonalize it. Again, we're thinking about that magazine. Buyers want to see the home. They want to see what they're buying. They don't want to kind of just see a bunch of pictures, and that kind of makes them feel like it's not something that where they could picture and they can visualize themselves living in. So we do our best to try to give you some tips on making the home appear larger. And that's a big part of by decluttering it. That's the biggest thing that you can do. People want to see the real estate that they're buying. So we try to keep the countertops as clean as possible so that then they can see them. It makes the home appear larger. And then again, just depersonalizing it to get it show ready. Again, like we mentioned, first impressions account. When they walk into that house, they could potentially like it, love it, or simply, we have to have it. Like Tim mentioned earlier, if you have one of those three options happen, chances are they're going to submit an offer. If they absolutely have to have it, chances are you're going to get a very good offer. These are the steps that we go through in listing a home, and pricing it, again, is the most critical element. We spend a lot of time in finding this. I guess we shoot for the sweet spot. If you price it too high, then you actually could eliminate some of the buyers even seeing the home that's once you advertise it, because their agents have them set up on searches. And for example, if it's a $300,000 home and their search max is $275,000, it wouldn't even show up. It doesn't mean that they're not approved for 300, but they had their agent set them up on 275. So if we set it too high, again, it won't show up on their radar. If we set it too low, it won't be in the price range of what they've been looking at. So they'll again wonder what's potentially wrong with it, because it's not in the ballpark where they're looking at. So we spend a lot of time again on pricing it to attract as many buyers as possible. Days on market and back on market. We want to avoid this if at all possible, because again, it's got that perception. If it's on the market for several days, what's wrong with it? If it's back on the market, same thing. What's wrong with it? Why is it back on the market? One thing that we try to do with this in when we are negotiating offers is when we select an offer, we select again a backup or a second backup. So in doing that, we never go back on the market. So if something happens to that first offer, we just simply put the backup offer in play, because usually that first weekend on the market, like the scenario that we mentioned earlier with the houses that I listed, if those, you get your best offers usually during that first weekend or during that first group of offers. So we try to avoid the back on market if at all possible. And then again, the photos, again, like Tim mentioned, we do professionally get those taken and staged homes because it does bring a higher price point. I also like to do aerial photos with our photographers because it gives it a nice layout where you can see property lines. And again, it just gives you that element of professionalism. We also try to cast a very wide net so that we get more visibility. There are about 10,000 agents in the Central Ohio, the Columbus Board of Realtors right now. Those agents have their clients set up on searches. So if we are listing your home and it is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Gahanna, as soon as we enter that in the MLS, those agents that have their clients set up on searches will immediately see your home. So that's the way we cast a very large net to get visibility quickly. And then at our brokerage, we also have about 400 other sites that we publicize all of our listings on nationwide, because we have people moving to Columbus from all over. So we want to cast the biggest net as possible, again, to get you as many buyers as possible. We put this all together, and the seller's market, again, is what we're at, but it's still very much like playing a game of cards. And we want to make sure that we're playing the cards right for you. A lot of sellers, and many of you may have experienced this yourself right now, you're getting offers in the mail from investors. They're literally sending you a letter and offering you cash for your house. With this, it seems enticing at times because they're saying you don't have to do anything, you don't have to pay commission, but they're not giving you the best of terms. And many times what investors are doing when they're sending these offers out is they'll offer you a certain amount and then they will do an inspection and then they lower their price. So what we're finding over and over is if you do the process like we're talking about and we price your home well, we show it well, it shows well, we market it well, you are going to get multiple offers and you're going to also get great terms. All those terms that Tim talked about that buyers are using to win offers, that's what you as a seller will receive. You're going to suddenly get offers with cash. We're still getting cash offers. You're going to get a high purchase price. The appraisal gaps will be in there. Closing costs being offered to pay some of the seller's closing costs. No inspections, or if they have inspections, they're saying that they're not going to ask the sellers to fix anything. Appraisal waivers sometimes in cases. Quick closings, all those things, extended possessions, those are all what we shoot for in playing your cards right to get you the royal flush. And it does happen. Again, it's a strategy that we use, but it works extremely well for our sellers. Again, if it's been on the market for a while, then you suddenly don't get as good at terms. So after we review the offers, that's when we would accept it. And again, accept your backup offer. And at that point, the process will start where we will start working through all the things that Tim mentioned, as far as the inspections, the appraisals. That process will play out. And then within 30 to 45 days maximum, you will have sold your home. And a lot of stuff happens between this, but that's just kind of an overview of what the process says. I did want to briefly touch on for sale by owners, because a lot of times, especially in this market, sellers are thinking, why should I even list with an agent? Because it is a seller's market. But I wanted to kind of just bring this to your attention and awareness that there's a lot of money that can be left on the table when this happens. Because the main reason that people want to sell their own home is to avoid paying the listing agent commission. And I understand that. And but I just kind of, again, wanted to put it to paper so maybe you could see it, because we've helped a lot of people and we've helped them to make a lot of money. And again, this is your biggest asset, your biggest investment. And that is our goal, to help you make as much money as possible for you and your family. One example is listing a home for $200,000 at the 3% commission that you would have paid a realtor for the listing side would be $6,000. Many, we call them FSBOs, for sale by owners, they would still be paying the buyer's agent side of that. And in doing that, you don't have the representation on the contracts and the negotiations and the pricing, where the buyer would still have that. You would have very limited marketing, and less buyers equals less competition, equals less offers, equals less money. So you also would not have someone to help you handling the showings, the inspections, and the appraisals. Listing with an agent. This is exactly a real life scenario that we just had happen with us this week. So Tim and I met with a new client, and they were getting ready to list their home, or I'm sorry, they were getting ready to sell their home. They got one of those investors that reached out to them for $165,000 in cash. So I reached out to her, and when she told me that, I knew that that was way too low for her home, and I knew she was going to be leaving a lot of money on the table. So we met with her, we discussed it with her, and she decided to list with our brokerage. So we have been marketing her home for 5 days, and we are going to be going on the market on Friday. We've done exactly what we mentioned that we've done with the other ones. We got the professional photographer in there. We've done the aerials. We've did the marketing blast, and we've sent it out to everyone. This said 40 showings, but this I made this slide yesterday. I actually have 50 showings scheduled right now with pre-approved buyers starting Friday. I already have had one verbal offer come in. Again, it's verbal, for $300,000 cash for this family, which would have resulted in a $291,000 if it plays out. But I know there's going to be more offers with some great terms. So we're going to end up helping them sell their house for at least, well, I should say about $300,000 when they were willing to settle for $165,000 last week. So that's why Tim and I love doing what we do, because we know it makes a difference, and we know the advice and the expertise that we add and the value that we bring to the table will help our clients in ways that can truly be life-changing in some instances. Get back here in this.
Oh,
Oh, okay. So anyway, sorry, I thought Tim wasn't in the picture. So thank you so much for your time. That is basically the, in a nutshell, what we're about. And again, we just hope that we've brought some value on both the buying and the selling process to you today. And if you have any questions, our contact information is in the chat. Again, we're here to assist and advise in any way we can. We love helping people. It is just something that we do. And we, again, love working with our fellow military brothers and sisters. Other than that, if there's any housekeeping or if there's any questions, Jennifer, please let us know. But we've really enjoyed you taking the opportunity to allow us to share some information with you.
Thanks all.